Hello and welcome to the latest instalment of the Rangers Women's Supporters Group podcast and the last one of this season. Hooray! We'll briefly touch on last week, Car, because we were terrible people and didn't record for the good people that watch.
I was busy washing my hair.
So, so obviously last week we were at Ibrox and we faced Hibs with a chance to win the league and we didn't. So, thoughts on the day?
We didn't want it. We were rubbish. We were disjointed. The team lineup was wrong. She should have started Brogan. Subs were wrong and too late, too reactionary, and just everything went wrong. It didn't look like we wanted to do it.
Yeah, Alan, as we've said numerous times, we seem to struggle when we kind of move the games to Ibrox. I think other people have kind of started to figure that out as well. So it's frustrating. Obviously, the team want to play at Ibrox because it's their main stadium and that, but it just seems to add that extra bit of pressure. And when you're already going for the league, it just seems to add that bit extra that we can't really handle.
Yeah, it doesn't really help, but and we'll touch on today later on, but we can play on the big parks. I really don't think we should be looking at that as an excuse, but it's the way that we've continually changed shape throughout the course of the season. We reverted to playing a back four early on last week against Hibs, and it's not worked at any point this season. With the most dangerous player, Rio Hardy, wide right, never in a game, and we're second to every ball. Hibs came to spoil a game and done exactly what I would expect us to do. If the shoe was on their foot, if we needed a point, I'd expect us to go out and try and spoil the game at every opportunity. Then they got a chance and they made the most of it. Something we just didn't do. We started the game quite well. We looked up for it and then just completely fell back into our shadow. And it was really, really a disappointing way to end the league season because we had so many chances to get back into the league. So many chances when we thought it was gone, and all of a sudden we had another chance. It's the best chance we've had going into the last game of the season in the last 3 years, and it just wasn't to be.
Yep, unfortunately. Car, as a spectacle, it was a horrible game to watch. I mean, obviously watching it nervous because we're like, oh, are we going to win it? We're not going to win it. But considering that game was on Sky Sports and it's broadcast to like basically whoever wants to watch it, obviously. But as a game, you want to advertise the women's game, a big title decider, and it just wasn't a great game to watch at all, was it?
It wasn't. It was a pretty bland game of football, to be honest. And I know both teams were pretty nervous, and it was probably going to be that way. Hibs were time wasting a lot, and we were absolutely rotten the whole game. So I think people were tuning into that to be like, oh, I'll watch women's football and see what it's all about. It's not a great advertisement of it, especially with it being the last day potential. But either team could win the league, and it was pretty boring. I don't know if that's me being a bit better, but it wasn't a great game of football, to be honest.
Yeah, I think even Hibs fans, I've seen them even kind of said that, or the ones that I've spoke to as well, have said that it just wasn't a great game to watch. Obviously, they're happy with the result we earned it, but you want the game to look good so that people come along and watch the game more and talk about it and gets money into the game and that. But it just obviously didn't really help Alan, did it?
No, it's certainly not the sort of game that's going to draw a lot of eyes to it and keep people coming back. Obviously a bigger audience on Sky Sports, nearly 6,000, I think the crowd was. We talk about it when we want to sort of build the crowds. We need to see a performance when it's a big crowd in a big game, and too often the players don't seem to relish and enjoy playing in front of the bigger crowds, even though they want to.
Yeah. Touching on that card, do you think it would have been better trying to get the 6,000 at Broadwood and building that as your kind of home, and it would have actually probably had a better atmosphere because it was quite flat as well, the game. So if you kind of pack out an actual stadium that can hold that kind of capacity rather than Ibrox just looks empty when there's 6,000 in and everybody's spread out across that one stand.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been ideal, but I don't know if nearly 6,000 turn up to Broadwood for it. I think more people come along because it is Ibrox and potential to win the league. I mean, look at how many people left just after Hibs scored because, we were looking and they walked out, which is crazy to me because you don't see many people leaving women's games early, regardless of what the score has been, because people want to go and speak to the team in that. So I don't know if we get that attendance at Broadwood, but it would be nice if we try and build that and play every game there next season, try and get that momentum going and get more fans in that want to see us do well. But I don't know if that will happen because obviously it's good. The players want to play there, the club want us to play there, but unless we can play every game there, which isn't going to happen anytime soon, I don't think it's good moving games, to be honest.
Yeah. Finally, I'll just got that our big game record. I know you've got the stats. I think that was no wins against Hibs, was it, this season?
Yeah, if we're looking sort of league form, we scored 1 goal against Hibs all season in the league. 1 point against Hibs out of 12, with 4 points out of 12 against Glasgow City. A bit better against Celtic with, I think, 8 points out of 12, and then 10 out of 12 against Hearts. But it's no surprise with that sort of record we finished third. We finished behind both Hibs and City because, quite honestly, we finished where we've deserved to finish. There's been far too much inconsistency through the season. It's brilliant for the league. There's been 4 winners in 4 seasons. The SWPL should be shouting us to rooftops about how competitive the league is. You can talk about the game wasn't much of a spectacle, but the twists and turns in the league, as a neutral, it's people who should be wanting to actually grow the league. The SWPL should be all over. The variety of winners, the competitiveness, the fact that it's going down to the last game of the season all the time. But selfishly, I just want to see us be far more clinical and take the opportunity. I'd take next year not being competitive and us having the league wrapped up by the time my birthday hits in March. But
yeah, we'll take a 14-point lead early on and just run away with it. Thank you very much, Rangers. No, we'll leave that there. Obviously, ended up disappointing result in the league at the end, but we move on to today, Car. We did have a chance, I think, thankfully, because otherwise that's a horrible way to end the season, but we did have a chance at silverware today, which we took that chance and won it, thankfully. So we started with Fife and goals, Docherty, Hill, Medag, Hay, Howitt, Macaulay, Cornet, McLean, McCleary and Wilkinson. That's the team we wanted last week, really, wasn't it?
Pretty much, yeah. So I guess Jo has listened to feedback from fans or wherever she gets her feedback from, I don't know, but it's pretty much spot on for what we wanted. And I think the difference is everybody played together today rather than last week where it was just individuals. Jodie was trying a bit, but nobody was really doing anything, whereas today everyone was on it from like the first minute.
Yeah, just sticking with your character. I think that makes it disappointing in a way. I think it was why it was so flat today, because it's like, where was that performance last week? Like, I know the team was different. I think the team just didn't work last week, but it's just disappointing to come out and then they played so well today. It's like, well, it's the consistency which Alice just touched on that we've been lacking this season.
It is, and last week I was starting to think I had like delusions of grandeur about how good this team is, and then we come out and play like that, and it reminds me that we are actually a good team and we've got good players that can play well together if they're, played in the correct positions. But I think it does make it a bit more annoying that we get that performance today. But I think we would have been more annoyed had they lost it and then we end up with 1 trophy in third and we're more annoyed. So you can't really please us all the time, but it is a bit annoying that they can do it. So where was that against Hibs earlier in the season? Where was that last week? It just makes it a bit more frustrating.
Yeah. It is just that lack of consistency, Alan, that hopefully they can rectify next season when we're kind of learning our lessons for this season.
You would hope so, because we talk about the team lineup. It started last Sunday against Hibs. It was the same team that put 5 past Hearts away in the first half. So I think we all looked at a team that came out at Ibrox and were mostly quite happy with it, but it just didn't work because as much as it was the same players, we kind of changed the shape. And we've been doing that too much this season. It's brilliant looking to be more than a one-dimensional team and have different options, but we've continued to go back to an option that doesn't work for this group of players for whatever reason. Where it's it's the management can't get it to work, where the players just don't suit it. I don't really know, but it's just not sat well with us the last sort of 2 years when we've tried to play a back four. And I think when we went so close last year, we just needed a couple of tweaks. We've tried to reinvent the wheel a wee bit too often this year, and it's cost us.
Yep, I think that pretty much hits the nail on the head. But the game, we started well, Car. We had a couple of chances, and it seemed like it was going to be one of the days where we were hitting like the woodwork and then the crossbar, and it just seemed like we were like, oh, here we go again. We've seen this kind of script before.
Yeah, I mean, Mia put one just wide, and then we hit the crossbar, and it almost became the crossbar challenge between both teams at one point, because I think both teams hit the crossbar pretty close together. But we were playing well, and I think that's what kind of gave me a little bit more belief than I had initially, because I think everybody was saying we're not going to win it, we're not going to do it because we're being rubbish. But it was quite refreshing. But we're kind of snatching a little bit at some things, but I think once we settled down and got into it, we were all right.
Yeah, Alan, in 25 minutes, up steps Mia Macaulay, as she does so often, and puts us into the lead, and I think that pretty much settled the nerves, didn't it?
Yeah, and I think that goal had been coming. Mia had been through a few times, and I was definitely looking at danger. She's playing quite central today and playing in behind Kirsty and Katie up front. So she got down the sort of inside right channel, and she had a chance not long before that for pretty much the same position. That maybe didn't get enough on, but we'd got a corner from. But no mistakes at this time. She absolutely fired the ball across Lee Gibson into the bottom corner, and that really seemed to settle not just the team on the park but the fans down. So Glasgow City were coming into the game with the same sort of blow, losing it in the league as we were. So it was a case of what one of the two teams had picked himself up a bit better. And thankfully, we had the best game in the first half and made it count.
Yeah, we definitely did. Nick went off injured. She had taken a kind of nasty one quite early on in the game. Got up, played on as Nick does, because she would run through a brick wall for this club. But then obviously must have got too much for her, whatever the injury was. So she went off for RAF, which is really unlike Nick. So it must be fairly serious for her to actually go off.
Yeah, it was a tasty challenge, and then Nick kind of was breathing pretty heavily when she came off, and then after Mia had scored, she went over to the dugout, but it's not really a dugout, but over to the management team and was drinking water and sat down. And I think at that moment we kind of knew it must have been pretty bad, because Nick's not a player to do that. She's a bit of I can't think of a word. I'm not going to say the one that I want to say. She's a nightmare, I'll put it that way, where she will sometimes go down like pretending to like buy time or whatever, but she's not one to like go down unnecessarily. But yeah, it's a bit gutting for her, and her 100th start as captain, gutting for her. But luckily we had Raf there, because we were all thinking that she wouldn't be able to play today because of the red card last week, but thankfully she was able to play. So yeah, she came on and did quite well, but it's just gutting for Nick that she wasn't able to see out the rest of the game, and she got to lift the trophy, but didn't get to do that and celebrate on the pitch.
Yeah, it was just coming to that stat, Alan. That's an incredible stat for Nick, but no more than she deserves. She's been absolutely fantastic for us, and she deserves that captain's armband.
Absolutely. Nick's been a stalwart for a club. She represents the club so well. She's been a brilliant ambassador for a club on and off the park. But she rightfully keeps her place in the team because her performance levels tend to be very, very high. We've obviously seen a lot of mistakes defensively across the back over the course of the season, but Nick's been the mainstay in that team, and deservedly so. So to see her reach 100 games as captain, for Rangers, a childhood Rangers fan, she's grown up a Rangers fan, and it's just absolutely brilliant to see.
Yep, absolutely. Well, congratulations to Nick for that. Next, Kirsty Howitt gets on the score sheet, as she often does at Hampden. She loves a goal there, and another assist for Wilcock.
Yeah, I mean, I've got it down that Wilco gets a hat-trick of assists today, but I don't know if one of them really counts. But, I mean, it's a beautiful ball in that just plays into Kirsty. I've written she brings it down, but she doesn't really. It kind of just hits her a little bit and she controls it. Spins away from the defender, I don't know who it is, kind of takes a second and then puts it basically into the same place that Mia McCauley's goal had gone, you know, the first goal. I mean, beautiful from Kirsty Howe. When she shows up, she really is the best player on that pitch. She's unreal as a striker, as a player, and she just showed today that she was really up for it, which was good to see. And then that goal just really topped it off.
Yep, so we're going 2-0 at half time, Alan, and I think it was deserved because we were the better in the two sides.
I think it was thoroughly deserved that we had a 2-0 lead at half time. I think, especially after coming off the back of disappointment of the league, you know, knowing that we'd lost recently at Ibrox against Glasgow City, I think the players would have taken a lot of confidence and settled down a lot at half time. And you just want a team to come out with the same sort of energy in the second half and not start sort of poorly, not give anything cheap away. We saw that when we were comfortably up at Hearts a couple of weeks ago. You know, we were 5-1 up at half time and then came out, gave a daft goal away and spent the second half on the back foot in a game that should have been comfortable. So we wanted to make sure that the team came out and didn't fall into that trap. And thankfully they came out and done a really professional job in the second half.
Yep, definitely. And then again, Kirsty Howe's there. She was absolutely phenomenal today, Car. Another goal, and that sealed the game.
Yeah, I think we were kind of thinking if we get another one, the game's dead at that point. It didn't take too long, but she kind of starts the move and then plays it to Wilco, who then plays it to Kirsty Howe. City are appealing for offside at this point. I think they kind of stopped thinking it was offside, but thankfully we kept going. Kirsty Howe just has to put it under Lee Gibson. I watched it back and I think the commentators thought it was offside, and then you see that she's not. She's a mile onside. It's absolutely fine. It's no problem. The game was done at that point. City weren't really offering that much other than taking the ball off us occasionally, and we were taking it straight back off of them. So the game was done at that point, and I'd say it was party time, but it wasn't really. We were having a good time when the rain wasn't happening.
Yeah, City never really offered that much, Alan. I think they had a couple of chances throughout the game, but never really offered much. And then they started getting a bit frustrated, I think, and they were flying into tackles, and then VAR managed to get involved as well, and they got a player sent off.
Yeah, it was a clear foul, and straight away before the ref made the decision, he pulled out the yellow card. I thought there was a real risk that's a red card. You know, it's very, very much like Laura Rafferty's red card last week at Ibrox against Hibs, but ref pulled out the yellow. We thought it's obviously judged the defender on the centre was going to cover. It was quite packed, but you know, Van Diemen was a 1 against 3. You know, so it was really good to see they did actually go to the VAR, because we were vastly outnumbered them and almost certainly going to get an Everton goal. So correct decision made. Nice to see VAR actually work in their favours at Hampden. So as much as the game is gone by that point, you know, it had absolutely zero bearing on the game, but it was still nice to see something actually go our way.
Yeah, then they used VAR another couple of times. It was like they forgot that it was there, and then they went, oh, we've got technology we can use. This is great fun. So then the game was done, Car. On comes Jane Ross, got 10 minutes or so for our final game. Crazy when the game was done, but anyway, she managed to get on. Leah Eddy also came on, Kirsty and Kathy went off. But we'll just need to talk about Jane, because what a fantastic servant for the club, for the country. She's played pretty much everywhere, England, abroad, been followed by Tess quite often. Is also leaving. So 2 fantastic servants for the club, and I think fantastic ambassadors for women's football as well.
Yeah, I'm still not quite believing that Jane's away. Do you know, it sounds crazy to say that when she's, 30 she's our age, isn't she? She's 34, 35. So I understand why she's done it. She's had a few nasty injuries the last few seasons, but to get 151 caps for Scotland, score the fastest goal in the WSL, won everything in Scotland, did really well in England. She is just an incredible player, but as a person, she just genuinely seems like such a nice person. Sometimes you meet people and you think, but Jane seems genuinely just such a lovely person, and I hope she enjoys a lot of coffee shop days out and drinking nice coffee and eating lots of cake and just enjoying whatever she wants to get up to in this season. I can't even speak. Summer and beyond, because she is an incredible player, but as a person, she really is incredible. So the fact that she managed to get on, I would have had her on a lot earlier, but I think a lot of people would have. But that's on Jo. That's it is what it is. She got to lift the trophy with Nick, so that's enough for me.
Yeah. She's just one of those humble human beings, Alan, that just seems to be, or has been, incredible at football. And I think she doesn't realise how talented she is. And it's like Rangers done some good content, obviously thanking her for everything and whatnot. We're obviously retiring, but I think she just doesn't realise how good she is. And I think any team that she's been at, anybody that she's played with, always speaks really highly of.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you've obviously been following the team longer than I have, and been able to speak to Jane more often. But any time I've spoken to her, be it pitch side, be it in the aftermatch, and just seeing how humble she is, how sort of hard she's worked to get back fit. That was a horrible injury she had with her ACL and a lot of complications, which could have finished a lot of players, but she worked really hard to get back. She's came back in, she's contributed, she's in amongst the sort of top goal scorers for us in the last 2 seasons, even though she only played half of last season, missed a chunk of this season through injury, and she's in the team, she's still scoring goals. Even the semi-final of the Scottish Cup that we've just obviously lifted, she scored her first ever hat-trick at Hampden. So even in her retirement arc, she's still marking off achievements, and it's been an absolute privilege to watch Jane play for Rangers. She's obviously another Rangers fan, growing up wearing the jerseys. She's got to represent the club, as Carl said. She's been round so many clubs, different records and titles and awards, and it's just been great to see. And whatever Jane goes and does, I'm sure anybody that follows her on any social media she's got will always sort of support Jane, and I'm sure we'll still see her about the club at games.
Yeah, she did say that to us, so I don't think we've seen the last of her in that aspect, but yeah, fantastic player. We wish her all the best. As we also touched on, Tess is also leaving. And I think you're going to cry again. So I think she was one of the first players that we kind of spoke to at a game. Like, she came over and she's another one that's just so humble and just willing to give her time up, talk to the fans. Great player, great ambassador for the club. She's obviously does so much for Scotland as well. She was part of the PFA and whatnot. She just absolutely loves football and she's going to be missed.
Yeah, I mean, I had a wee cry in Hampden when she told us, and I didn't think it would hit me quite as much, because we all kind of assumed she'd be leaving. Didn't really know if it was true or not, but the fact that she told us, it kind of just hit me like a ton of bricks, because she's just been a mainstay, whether it's been in the midfield or in the back line for most of last season and this season. She's never complained. She just got on with it. She's a good footballer, but as a person, she's just a good person, isn't she? She wants to save the world, essentially. She's very much for the environment. She cares a lot about things deeply. She's done a lot for the museum at Hampden, our museum at Rangers, with her dissertation that she did. She really does care very deeply about a lot of things, which I think is unusual to see in footballers, because I mean, that sounds kind of horrible, but do you know what I mean? They're kind of they care about football and their lives or whatever, but Tess genuinely seems like she does care a lot about a lot of stuff. So I wish her all the best, and wherever she ends up, we'll make sure we make a trip to go and see her, and hopefully it's nearby, but if not, we'll get on a plane if we have to go and see her again.
road trip, plane trip over there. Anything to add to that, Alan?
I think you both covered so much of what we can say about Tess. You know, similar to what you said, she was one of the first players I remember really making an effort to come over. And even if you look recent, you know, players were not so keen to come over and speak to fans last week at Ibrox. It was Tess that led the way. Tess came over, skipped over the holdings, and she was closely followed by Jane. You know, so it's good that we're talking about both of these players. And Tess is even when we had poor performances and defeats, you know, Tess will see as many of the fans as possible. She's always so thankful for the support of the fans, the fact that we travel and wherever we're playing, you know, that so many fans will be there. You know, Tess recognises people and might not know everybody by name, but remembers people and remembers the sort of details, and it's more than you can expect the players to do. You know, we're going there as supporters. You know, we're supporting a football club. You don't expect necessarily the players to remember as much as players like Tess do. So Tess has been an absolute fantastic ambassador for our club, for Scottish football, and I'm not sure where she'll end up playing, but as Carl said, you know, I'm definitely hopefully a road trip to see wherever Tess rocks up. So if you're watching Tess, please not America or Australia. My wallet might not quite stretch to that, but no, it'd be an absolute pleasure to go and see Tess play wherever she rocks up.
Yeah, absolutely. And she does have a following. We know, obviously, fans that have came and followed her from other clubs and that as well. So she's just that kind of person that she makes time for us, so we'll make time for her. There obviously will be other probably announcements being made soon, but we'll not speculate on them too much, Car, because we've not been told officially. So, but yeah, it's this time of the year we're kind of like, yeah, the season's done, but then players are leaving, and you're just like, oh, you forget that that's kind of going to happen. But it's just part of football, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's just more annoying that they don't tell us, and I don't know why. Like, why is it a secret? You could have just told us this week, and we would have been able to like organise stuff and be able to say goodbye properly. But it's just the way that our football club sometimes is ran. That it's not the most organised, it seems. But it just is what it is, and I'll be glad of the rest. I'll be glad to be able to spend my Sundays doing something else, and maybe, you know, go out and about and do other things. But I'm sure in a couple of weeks I'll be missing it and be refreshing Twitter and Facebook and whatnot all the time to see what comings and goings are happening and who's being renewed, who's leaving, all that kind of stuff. And I'm sure there'll be more to come that will upset me greatly, but we'll see what happens when that happens, but hopefully not too many.
It's fine. Remember, Laura Berry signed a new contract. You'll be absolutely fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll bring it back up. We did win, obviously, the cup today, so that's for the second season in a row, a cup double, Alan. So consistent in that. Maybe just need to be more consistent in the league, and then we can add that next season.
Definitely. I mean, cup wise, we seem to have got it sorted. You know, 6 cup finals in the last 3 seasons, and we've won 5 of them. So very encouraging. You know, certainly we're close in the league. You know, we've been involved in the title race to the last 8 of the season, but we really need to get that over the line. You know, we've now ended up not only not winning the league, but in 3rd place. So we don't have Europe next season. That's no doubt going to impact on the budget. So there'll be a lot of changes at the club, and we'll have to see sort of how ambitious the club are. There's obviously a lot going on off the field at the club, you know, but as we've seen sort of down south, you know, when new people come in charge of the club, it tends to take a wee bit of time before they get to take a serious look at the women's team. So we're going to need a lot of hard work over summer. We're going to need to really freshen up and fire up the squad, but no distractions early in the season with Europe. So going to have to go into next season full focus on the league, because nobody wants to see that heartbreak that we saw last week. And that's why, as Carl touched on, you know, it was great. It was a nice day out at Hampton today. It was a really good performance. Love seeing Rangers wave trophies about, but it was just that bittersweet sort of way where it should have been more.
Yeah, again. And I think just the atmosphere today was very flat, Cara. I don't know if it was because last week that obviously for both teams we both missed out in the league, so everybody was just kind of like, oh, just get this game done. But when you've got a big final, you'd think, don't know, I think even probably because the Sky Sports Cup final, it was kind of like all the entertainment was on and that kind of cheered everybody up, but it just seemed like one of them that was just like, just get it out of the way. Whoever wins it wins it. Let's move on.
Yeah, I think going into it as well, I'd already had it lost. We were talking to people before the game, and I thought it doesn't really matter because we've already lost. So I feel like a bit of a fool thinking that now, but I'm glad to be proven wrong. But it was very flat. I thought it looked busier than it was, and then you saw it on the TV or on the screen at Hampden, and it really wasn't that busy at all, to be honest. It wasn't great, but yeah, I don't know if it was the weather or just last week or just the season in general. Everyone's just a bit done, and thankfully we won, but even the celebrations didn't seem as jubilant as previous seasons. It wasn't quite as much going on, but I don't know. Maybe that is just years of hurt built up on the players and on the fans that were just kind of, yeah, it's great we won it, but like we should have won last week kind of thing. So it probably is just that. But we've got a next season to go and rectify that, as we've said the last 3 years, 2 years, 3 years. So let's hope that next year we're not saying that again and we actually go and do it.
Yeah. Positives of Hampden, Alan. We actually had the team going up the stairs to lift the trophy, as should be, and we had them facing us when they actually were waving the trophy when the second time that they got it. So we're getting there eventually with them.
Well, listen, it was much better than it was last year. Last year seemed a wee bit sort of chaotic, but I'm really not a big fan of the finals. You know, everybody's in the north stand, and then just sort of it's sold as neutrals in the south stand along with families. I think there's enough there that, you know, the attendance is not so high that we can't just have everybody in the south stand and make it that wee bit better. There's more space in the concourses for any activities you want to plan as well. But the only sort of downside of that platform being over and facing, they could maybe have left the sides and the tops off until the trophy was lifted, because it actually blocked a lot of fans. You were kind of ducking and squinting to see the trophy lift or watching on the screens. But brilliant to see the players getting the traditional sort of walk up the stairs to lift the cup.
Yeah, as it should be, a bit of tradition. So, Cara, would you summarise the season? I think you're a bit flat still, but happy overall. Obviously, there's room for improvement because I think we all predicted the treble and that didn't happen, but close again. But close.
No cigar.
Summarise it.
Yeah, I mean, I am happy, and we've done the double, which should have been a treble, but never mind. A double treble. I'm getting a bit ahead of myself there.
I wish.
Should have been, but I just think consistency in the league wasn't there. There was too many performances that we weren't good enough. Some players had off days and went through spells of not scoring and having issues and injuries and whatnot. That's just the way that football is, and other teams have improved, which is great for the league, but we have to be able to match that, if not go above that, with every other team that's improved and put more money into it and whatnot. But overall, I am happy. We'll look back on it, and I think there's been some real good performances. The League Cup final was really good. Today was really good, and there has been performances against Celtic and whatnot where it's been good games that we've managed to come out the other end with good results. So overall, we'll look on it positively, but I think there'll always be that overhanging, it should have been more.
Yeah, definitely. Our supporter group awards, Kirsty Howitt got Player of the Year, Chelsea got Goal of the Season, and we gave special recognition to Nick and Jane Allen. I think all thoroughly deserved.
Absolutely. You know, there was never going to be any doubt with the goalie season. You know, we've seen some great goals this season, but the whole context of that goal, you know, the story, Chelsea came back from being injured for months. You know, we'd obviously been really missing the midfield because with Chelsea and Kirsten McLean out for a long time. You know, and that was a massive blow for us. So to come back, you know, the skill, you know, to score a late win on an Old Firm game is always going to be magic. Where it's a more arduous 2-yard effort or Chelsea's effort at rightly one goal a season, but everybody that's sort of won awards and got recognition, absolutely thoroughly deserved to. We spoke about Nick and Jane already tonight, and they're quite rightly getting special recognition.
Yep. Anything to add to that, Kath?
No, I just echo everything Alan said, and I think we picked right giving Nick and Jane both the special recognition awards, because I think we kind of hypothesised that maybe Jane would be leaving or retiring, and we didn't want to just give it to one. So I think we did the right thing giving it to both of them. And I think Kirsty Howe's probably most years going to win player of the year, because she's always such a fantastic player and scores a lot of goals. And a bit gutted that she took the golden boot off of Jane Ross when she scored 2 goals today to see her sail up at the top of the table. But I'm sure Jane's not too mad about that when it meant that we won the trophy.
Yeah, definitely. So we will leave it there. The season's finished. We're finished. Obviously there's an international break, but we don't really mention that because it's international. But it's been another good year of podcasting, as always, with the pair of you. So thank you for all your contributions.
Thanks, guys. It's been good.
No, thanks to you both, but thanks to everybody that's always talking to us at the games and asking when's the podcast up, asking for Zeus, asking, what we're going to talk about, so it's great to have the support of people that are going to the games or people that can't make the games. So, that encourages us to do it. So more of the same again next season, and we'll see as many people as we can at games next year.
Yep, definitely. And always make sure you come up and introduce yourselves and let us know, because as much as you are watching us, we don't always know who's watching us. So come up and speak to us. We're always happy to speak to anybody. So do that. We'll see you all next season. As always, thanks, Kat and Alan.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you after the summer. Enjoy your break.
Yep, enjoy your break. See you later.